Good morning, AGPPI, my fellow participants and respected judges. I hope you all are having a wonderful day, like so many exposure about the technologies and the technologies like distributed computing or the network security operating system and so much. So it's the reason why I, Sai Charantimat, and my co-partner Meenakshi Pujay, good morning, are here to present you a topic that is distributed computing. So let's check out what is there in a doc. Can we have the next slide, please? Yeah. The docket consists of the introduction part, the DC layer, that's the distributed computing layer, advantages, applications, disadvantages, and finally a conclusion. So basically, when I pronounce the word distributed computing, you might have a small myth in your mind that distributed computing is not my cup of tea. It's not my cup of tea that I have it. So distributed computing, if I start explaining it to you very easily, it is just like distribute and compute. If I give you two words and if I ask you to distribute it, it's very easy to understand. Like the same way, distribute and compute. So as it's there in the slide, like distributed computing has the same concept. Like when a job is given to you, distribute it and then work on it, right? So I guess this concept is being clear, but I see few folks are a bit confused between this. So if I give you a non-IT example in this is like construction of a building. Now suppose if I am a user, the client, and my partner is the engineer, if I ask him to build a house, so he'll agree for it, right? I'll ask him like I'll ask him to build my house in 7 days. He'll say sure. So what he does is he finally catches some laborers because it's pretty obvious that he cannot build one house in 7 days. So he catches some laborers, gives or divides or distributes the work to his laborers. Like he assigns a responsibility of getting the bricks to some labor, the other part from the other labor, and the other part from other labor. So this happens, and I'm pretty sure, or rest assured, that my building will be ready in 7 days because he is distributing the work, and the process is being done very quickly. So if you ask me what definition of IT definition you have for distributed computing, I can give you thousands of it. But the more easier way is what I have on the slide is multiple computers working on the same problem. As you can see on the image as well, if I consider the same example, I'm starting there when I as the engineer and he is distributing or giving the jobs to some of his neighbors so that the job is getting done very quickly. So can we move to the next slide, please? Yeah. So this slide consists of the architectural design of how the distributed computing takes place. So as I said, I am the user that is there on the first row that I send the request to him and he acts as the server. Here the server is considered as the master node. The master node acts the middleware of anything. If you can understand what if I mean that the master node controls the slaves, right? So if I'm giving any request or my program or my data or my any job to this person or the master node, he is responsible to get my job done. So what he does is he distributes my job to some of his slaves to make my computing or my job to be get done very quickly. For this reason, when the request is coming to the server or the master node, the process or the program data is being divided or distributed in blocks, and each block is being sent to other nodes, or you can call it as slave nodes. So these slave nodes compute, send back to the server, and server responds to the client or the user. So could we have the next slide? So in this slide, we can show you the working between the master node and the slave nodes. As you can see, there's a small rectangle where you have the puzzles. So this puzzle is being sent by a user. It's unsolved. Actually, it's been unsolved. So when the user sends this request or a job, the master node records it, takes it, and he breaks this process into sub-processes or blocks. And each block is being distributed among his slave nodes. Like you can see that the process node is also considered as a slave node. Now, what he does, the process nodes or the slave nodes process this data, or it can compute my unsolved puzzle as a block, which has been distributed by master node, and it sends back to the master node so that he could respond back to the user the solved puzzle. If we consider this example. So in this way, the working process is being taking place to solve a person's job or a program or any data which is being used for, in distributed computing concept. So my point here is, or you might be having some issue like, is it concerned that a user should be knowing how exactly the internal it takes, how exactly it works internally, how does the job is being distributed?
Obviously not. It is the internal part, right? We have to hide it. Means the main concept is there is something that we hide from the user. That user should not have to know. Let me take you to the example. You all go hotel, restaurant, right? Do you ever concern with how the food is food is cooked? You are only concerned with the taste of food, right? The taste of the food. You are never bothered to know how exactly it is internally prepared. Same like this, these are some objects that we hide from the user. Access means how exactly the data is accessed is hidden from the user. Location means where our data is stored. Which slave is storing our data is hidden. Migration in the sense moving of data. There is some situation like in some time some of us slave fail to work. So there is need of moving that particular data to some other place. Then that is hidden from the user. It's a failure. If it's a failure in any of my slave, then that thing also hidden. If still there is some hiding objects like concurrency means we in the internally we distribute the same resource are allocated to different users, multiple users, right? Then that thing also added. Next slide. Next slide. And the advantages, everything had an advantage. Means when we so advantages of our topic, it's a higher performance. Why we suggest you to use this topic is these are some of the advantages of our topic. Higher performance. It's obvious that we dividing our process into we dividing our
Okay, time is up. So you have mentioned this of your distributed computing one of architecture that is masters architecture.